Second episode of the Lachie Brown Weekly Footy Roundup. We're going to be looking back at the opening round results. We're going to be looking back at a couple of old games for the matchups of round one. And speaking of round one, we'll be doing predictions for round one with today's guest star, Cardman22, as we'll be going head to head with the prediction. Bring it on.
Alrighty, Lachie, how's it going? The chat podcast. Alrighty, Lachie, what's going on? I'm here for my little bit in the Chat Gab podcast. I think I'm going through my opening round review and also my round one predictions. Now, I'm filming this actually in the middle of the Sydney v Brisbane game, so a few things sort of forced a bit of a delay, but we're here anyways, and let's talk footy. So interesting because the cyclone didn't really hit until like Saturday, Sunday, so they could have easily played the Brisbane v Geelong game. That would have probably made a bit more sense in hindsight. We only saw the two games. We saw Sydney v Hawthorn. Now, I did actually go to
now we're on to the opening round results. Sydney versus Hawthorn at the SCG. 20-point win for Hawthorn. 14-12-96 to 11-10-76. Will Day. What a game did he have? 26 possessions, 3 goals and 6 tackles. And 129 points on AFL Fantasy. Lloyd Meek. Had he had another great game? Is it Meek Monday or something? 30 hit-outs, 2 goals, 14 disposals. Carl Amon, 1 goal, 2 and 27 touches. As for the Swans, well, their best player is basically Matt Roberts. 26 possessions and, well, he didn't get a score. He's basically an opening round specialist for Sydney. The Hawthorn, I reckon they're looking good to be flag contenders in 2025. As for the Swans, well, they need to recover from the 2024 grand final loss very soon. And that's the end of this scene.
The opening round, both of these games. It was actually Sydney that I tipped. I thought they were going to get the upper hand. I just felt like heading into the first game of the season, I thought Sydney in front of the home fans, kind of like what they did last year against Melbourne. I wasn't 100% sold on the Hawks, but the Hawks, especially midfield, they dominated and they made Sydney look silly. So I got that one wrong. Will Day had a standout performance. I think he definitely will get the 3 votes, and it was a 20-point win for the Hawks. And then for the other game was
versus Collingwood at Giants Stadium. Oh my day, somebody call the police! The Collingwood fraud squad's at it again! 52-point losers! Their only best player was Darcy Cameron, 37 hit-outs and 22 possessions. And coming to close second for them is Harry Perryman. He should have never left GWS! As for GWS, however, they don't really need him. Lachie Ash, 25 possessions and 7 tackles. Sam Taylor, 17 possessions, 13 marks and a goal. Josh Kelly, 36 touches. Finn Callahan had a great game, 2 goals, 2 and 33 touches. As for GWS, well, no Perryman, no Cumming, no Peatling, no Haynes, no problem. As for Collingwood, get your act together!
It's GWS v Collingwood, and with a few of the Giants outs, especially. And then the second game, we did have GWS and Collingwood, and it was a really surprising result because I thought heading into this one, especially with a few pre-season injuries, and I think Tom Green wasn't playing stringer. Hogan, I thought he was going to be what sort of saved the Giants from maybe getting a result. He went out with a game like a few days before with a thumb or a finger, and he was out. So I'm like, I think Collingwood with their pre-season form, I was expecting them to get the win. I thought they had a better side, but they looked so slow, sluggish, and they just didn't switch on. It felt like they couldn't get the goals on the board early on, and the Giants just completely demolished them in the second half. I was there. Now, I'm not a fan of opening round. The games were fun to be a part of, but there was no difference to really any other games that I've been to. The spectacle of opening round didn't feel like really much at all. It did feel a bit more like pre-season when I was there, and I didn't like how they're only the 2 games of footy. So, yeah, look, 2 games. I think the AFL want to continue have it happening. I think replace with a rivalry round, or just get all its clubs involved. If you want to do opening round, get some more of the clubs involved. It certainly did not help how only the 2 games were played, but yeah, and my predictions were poor. I said Collingwood and Hawthorn. I said Collingwood and Sydney, and I got both those games.
And I forgot to add the goals into this scene for GWS and Collingwood. Xavier O'Halloran kicked 2 for GWS, so did Darcy Jones, Ben Callahan, Callum Brown, and the Gru, Max Gruski. As for Collingwood, Brody Mychek and Jamie Elliott kicked 2 goals and a few of them kicked singles. Now we head on to the round 1 predictions. Richmond versus Carlton at the MCG. Who do you reckon will win this game, Cardman?
I'm wrong, but we head to round 1. Now, obviously, I do my own tipping on my own channel, but we'll go through the game so far. A bit of a review and preview because I'm filming this mid-weekend on Saturday. First game, Richmond-Carlton. I mean, who would have expected the result? I said Carlton win by 52. I didn't have any faith in Richmond. Saw, what they dished up against Richmond. Saw what they dished up against Collingwood in that game. They got absolutely dismantled. I just thought their young legs would tire out way too quickly. I thought there'd be some promising glimpses in some of the new players, but I didn't expect as much as what we got from the Tigers. I really liked Trainer and Lawler in their first game. Ross probably had the standout game of any player. He was awesome. Short was pretty good. Who else was there? Bowler out back was pretty decent. What was his name? Ben Miller. He also had a standout performance as well down back. I think he kept Harry Mackay to only 1 goal, so he had a great game. And Carlton, they were just way too arrogant in their performance. They got up by 41 points, and then they absolutely shat the bed. And Richmond just really wanted it more. And it was really, really good to see him get a win. And the alarm bells are already ringing for Carlton heading into this season, considering they've lost against a side a lot of people thought weren't going to get a single win. And I'm concerned for Carlton in a way. Richmond could actually be maybe a competitive side, maybe even escape the bottom ladder position. Who knows?
But for my team pick, I'm going with the Blues by 100 points. Best on ground for Carlton. I've got to go with Paddy Cripps, Harry Mackay, Charlie Kerner, and basically Jacob Wiedering down back. Richmond, hard to pick for Richmond. I don't think it will be a good game for the Tigers. It's going to be a long year for them. Carlton, they should be able to get their season off to a good start if they want to make finals. Now, Hawthorn versus Essendon at the MCG on Friday night. Who do you reckon? As for the prediction, Cardman will take a look at your predictions, and after you get onto it, your one, I can go look back at my predictions. Well, as for my predictions, I'm going with the Hawks by 30 points. Best on ground for Hawthorn, Will Day, James Sicily, Lloyd Meek, Jack Ginnivan. Essendon, I'm going with Isaac Keiko on debut, Zach Merritt, John Caldwell, and Jordan Redley down back, and that's the end of the Hawthorn Essendon prediction. Now, Hawthorn versus Essendon at the MCG on Friday night. Who do you reckon? As for the prediction, Cardman will take a look at your predictions, and after you get onto it, your one, I can go look back at my predictions.
Now, the next game was Essendon v Hawthorn, so I got the first tip wrong. 0-3 I'll start. I'm going, surely Hawthorn, after their performance against Sydney, can get the job done against the Bombers. And that was the case. It was a bit of an interesting game. I feel like the game was won in the first quarter from the Hawks, kicking 6 goals to 1, led by Ginnivan and Watson. I think they kicked 3 apiece, and they sort of were stars of the show with disappointing games against the Swans in opening round. And it was an okay fight back from Essendon. I mean, Caldwell had 36. Who else had a decent game? I don't know. I feel like, the Bombers, they just stayed in the game, but it was just a little bit too much of a task for them. Hawthorn already getting to that 5-goal lead, and they're a side that you can sort of now trust, I feel. They were maybe a bit of an immature side last year. The Hawks just kept having the answers for Essendon, which was disappointing because I kind of wanted to see Essendon make a fight back. I think the final result was 26 points. So Essendon, they did account...
Well, as for my predictions, I'm going with the Hawks by 30 points. Best on ground for Hawthorn, Will Day, James Sicily, Lloyd Meek, Jack Ginnivan. Essendon, I'm going with Isaac Keiko on debut, Zach Merritt, John Caldwell, and Jordan Redley down back. And that's
Hawthorn accounted for Essendon, and they moved to 2-0. We'll go through the next game.
Now we're going to Geelong versus Fremantle at GMHBA Stadium. My prediction. Going with the, I think I might go bold for this one. I'm calling a draw. Best on ground for because Geelong are going for a week off after that Cyclone Alfred. Fremantle, however, they look pretty good in the practice game against Melbourne. Best on ground for Geelong, I'm going with Jeremy Cameron, Bailey Smith on debut for his new club, and I reckon Lawson Humphries. Fremantle, I'm going with Andrew Brayshaw, Caleb Sarong, and I reckon Josh Tracy. And that's the end of this scene as with Swans Lions game coming up.
And really quickly, it was a game I just watched, Geelong v Freo. A lot of people expected this to be one of the closer games this round, and it was a weird one. It was a really weird one because Geelong got out the blocks early. They got out to a 60-point lead. In that third quarter, I think Murphy Reid kicked 4 goals to help Freo get back into the game. It was 21, and then they just absolutely gave up. It felt like Freo, and Geelong kicked 10 goals. Bailey Smith had a BOG performance in his new colours, and they lost by 78 points. So very surprising result just due to the extremity of the margin, and Fremantle have a lot of work to do heading into their next game. Very disappointed with that.
Now, Sydney Swans versus Brisbane at the SCG for round 1. I reckon the winner for this one will be the Lions by 25 points. Best on ground for Brisbane, I'm going with Lachie Neal, Will Ashcroft, and Hugh McCluggage. Swannies, I'm going with the midfield trio and Brodie Grundy in the ruck. Midfield trio, that was Chad Warner, Isaac Heaney, and Errol. There's no Errol Golden for this one. I'm gonna have to replace it with Matt Roberts. As for how about your predictions, Cardman?
Sydney v Brisbane's the game I currently filming this video whilst it's on. Swans are up by 13 points, and I did tip the Swans. Everyone's going against the grain, I'm going against the grain. Everyone's going for the Lions, thinking that, obviously the premiership outfit, they outclassed Sydney's midfield last year. Everyone thinks they'll do the same. I don't know, I just feel like Sydney, I'm just expecting them to have a response. I think Dean Cox will show a bit of aggression. He's that sort of coach, I feel like, that really wants to get the most out of the players and probably almost does a little bit too much. So he's not going to let Sydney have another poor showing. And if they don't win, they'll be close. And so far, they're up by 13 points. So I think my tip's looking okay for that game.
Bulldogs versus North Melbourne at Marvel Stadium. First game back at Marvel Stadium since the couple of concerts have happened here, like Drake and Green Day performing here. It'll be Caleb Daniels' first game against his old side. Cardman, who do you predict for this one?
We have Western Bulldogs North I'll be at very soon. I've actually gone the upset tip. I know Western Bulldogs typically tend to get the job done very easily against the Bulldogs in recent years, but I feel like the Dogs, obviously a few injuries, no Treloar and Bont in the midfield. Down back, they look a little bit thin. I think North Melbourne, if they can get on top early, get a little bit of momentum going with some of their youngsters in the midfield, and up forward, if Lachie and Darling maybe even can get on the scoreboard and maybe could cause a bit of an upset. So I am actually going North Melbourne by 13 points. I'll stay on that one. Another bit of an upset.
Anyway, for my predictions, I'm going with an upset. I'm going with the Rose by 2 points. Best on ground for North Melbourne, I'm going with Luke Parker on debut for his new club, Harry Sheasel and Nick Lachie. Western Bulldogs, I'm going with Riley Sanders, Tim English, and I reckon maybe Jedwas Langer on debut. Now we got Collingwood versus Port Adelaide. The Battle of Centrelink. It's the battle of the Adelaide Centrelink Department versus the Melbourne Centrelink Department. Collingwood versus Port Adelaide. And for this game, I'm going with, I think I've kind of given up on Collingwood after that loss against GWS. I'm going with the Power by 11 points. Best on ground for Port Adelaide, I'm going with Jordan Swaite in the ruck, Jack Lachie on his debut for Port Adelaide, and I reckon Darcy Byrne-Jones, because come picking in midfielders, and Jason Hall-Francis. As for Collingwood, I'm going with probably Josh Dacos and maybe Darcy Moore. Cardman, how about your predictions?
Collingwood v Port Adelaide. You know, I could see Port winning. I'm not sure on Port this year. I didn't really have them rated too highly in my predictions. Collingwood were very disappointing on the weekend, but they will have Houston back, and I think that's going to be a big impact considering he's playing against his former side. But the importance of Houston and the amount of drive he can create for Collingwood in transition from the half-back. He's got an elite kick, and I think him, Josh Dacos, Quainer, they'll link up well in this game, back of the G, in front of all their fans on a big Saturday night occasion. They normally do well against Port, so I think they're going to win. The midfield battle will be interesting. They'll Horn Francis, I'm looking forward to seeing play, but I think Collingwood should get the better of the full forward should get the better of Port Adelaide's defenders as well. So I'm going Collingwood by 18.
Now, here we are, Cardman. Our derby, Christ and Kilda at Adelaide Oval. Bring it on Sunday afternoon. Go Crows.
In that one. Now, obviously, Adelaide St Kilda, you're an Adelaide fan. If there's any result, now I want to be optimistic, and it's hard to not be heading into round one, but if there's any result from the games that haven't been played yet of what I think is most likely to be locked in, it's probably Adelaide winning. I just feel like first game back, so much pressure on Adelaide, really a strong pre-season. You know, you'd think they can account for it, sort of a weakened St Kilda side, a forward line that is just going to have to be like, it's going to be a chaos forward line. We're just going to have to see what works because a lot of injuries we have obviously heading into it. Who do we have out? Like no Sharman, obviously Membry isn't playing this year for us. No King and Butler even. So it's going to be a different look forward line for the Saints. Even our defence could be a little bit of a weakness as well potentially because I'm not a big fan of Cordy as a key back, but hopefully make it close. Ross Lyon, he's a great coach, so he can always get the most out of the players. I'm sure he'll find some tactics that can work and can keep things interesting, but I'm going to say Adelaide at home. They're tough to beat. We haven't beaten Adelaide in a while. We've beaten them twice, but it comes very few and far between. So I'm going Adelaide by 5 goals.
And for my prediction, I'm going with them to win by 50 points. I reckon you'll probably pick the Saints to win that one. You can choose your best players for the Saints. I can pick my best for the Crows. I'm going with Jake Salego, Alex Milbolin, and I reckon Dusty Fogarty. And Melbourne versus GWS at the MCG. You might remember this one. Well, we go back to this same corresponding round back in 2016 to take a look back at that Melbourne GWS game in round 1 of the 2016 season. It was a Saturday afternoon in front of 28,000 people at the MCG. What a win for Melbourne. 2 points! Jesse Hogan kicked 3 goals for the Demons. Jeff Garlett and Aaron Vandenberg with 2 goals each, along with the singles for Melbourne are James Harms, Ben Kennedy, Dean Kent, Bernie Vince and Jack Watts. He finally had a very good game, Jack Watts. As for GWS, Steve Johnson, Rory Lobb and Callum Ward with 2 goals each. 1 goal to Toby Green, Tom Scully, Devon Smith and Jack Steele is now at the Saints. As for GWS's biggest lead was 22 points in the third quarter. Melbourne's biggest lead was 10 points in the second quarter. Oh man, there were a few unknowns to that game. There was no Christopher Petrarca in that game and no Angus Brayshaw. Brayshaw has got injured in that pre-season game against Port Adelaide a few weeks back. As for Petrarca, he's still a few weeks away from debut. And now we're in the present 9 years later. I reckon we might have a different result. GWS to win this game by 10 points. Best on ground for the Giants. I'm going with Finn Callaghan, Jesse Hogan against his old side, and I'll go with maybe Lachie Ash. Melbourne, I'm going with Christian Petrarca, Clayton Oliver and Max Gawn, and that's the end of the scene.
I'd say. Melbourne v GWS is the other game as well. This will be an exciting one, I feel, because who knows with Melbourne. They've got 6 debutants, so that's going to be a really, really exciting for them, for their fans. You know, new look Melbourne side, but they've still got Petrarca and Oliver, and everyone's excited to see how they fare in 2025. I don't know if they're going to click like they, you know, have in previous years and find their absolute best in terms of their form, but I think they'll make things close. Tom Green will be back for the Giants, but the Giants in some tremendous form. Finn Callahan, I forgot to mention him in the opening round preview. I think overall the Giants just have a bit more class, and I think they'll win in a close game.
Now we head on to the West Coast Gold Coast game at the stadium in Perth. Gold Coast, they're just coming off a bye after that Cyclone Alfred. As for West Coast, well, it's their first game of the season, and I reckon the Gold Coast will get it done to get themselves a break from the Cyclone by 20 points. Best on ground for Gold Coast, I'm going with the 2019 draft class trio and Took Miller. West Coast, my best players for the Eagles, I'm going with Harley Reid, Liam Baker, and I reckon Oscar Allen. Is your pick for the game, Cardman?
And the last game, we got West Coast taking on Gold Coast. This is my pick for game of the round, actually. We haven't really gotten any really good games. Now, I know Carlton Richmond's probably the best game we'll see this round. I'm still saying West Coast, Gold Coast will be up there. Eagles at home are actually quite dangerous. They beat them last year in the same fixture against the Suns, but I think the Suns just need to be... They just need to get a win. Look, for the sake of themselves, for the sake of the trust in the competition, they just need to get a win, build some belief that they can win away from home, even if it's against a side like West Coast. I know they don't have Flanders or Andrew, but no excuses for mine. I'm going the Suns. I think it'll be a really tight battle. I think West Coast will get on top at times. Home crowd gets behind them, but Gold Coast have a bit of class. Noah Anderson, he'll shine. Maybe kicks a goal or two, has 30 plus. I'm saying the Suns by 3 points. And there you go. I know it's midweek, not before the start of round one, but that's what I see will be the case in round one and the review for opening round. Cheers, Lachie.
For the outro for the episode, I hope you enjoy the show. This is the Lachie Brown Footy show coming to an end, and we'll see you for round 2, as I'm going to be doing a prediction against my own artificial intelligence for that round. And